Some greetings and announcements today. For those of you who forgot what this is like, Ken Hertel was with us last time, said it was 31 on the Cape. Kim says there may be snow in the Illinois-Wisconsin border. I said if there is, she should send us a picture. Nanette, what's the temperature up there in Connecticut?
Oh, it was pleasant, but it was chilly. It is currently 46.
Ah! All right, for those of you, Pat, you're living in exile. What is it like up there? Pat?
Me?
Yes.
Me? Oh, it's cold.
Thank you. New York, thank you. Cold, Connecticut cold, where Kim is up in the Illinois fridge. It's freezing. Ray is in New York. It's freezing. Ed, what's it like in Florence, South Carolina?
It's in the low 70s right now, but it's very dark and gray and rainy today.
Well, all right. Welcome, everybody. Well, before we end today, we'll go around and say hello to everybody. One of my former students, Eric, is with us this morning. We're welcoming Eric, and I see the Feeneys have made it in from Fort Worth. Okay, here we go. Just to remind everybody, we have readers. We've got 5 readers now, and we are grateful for that. It was Serge's idea to remind me to get some readers, and if anybody else ever wants to join reading, you're more than welcome. Today, Serge will be reading, Ray, Samantha, and Nick. So we've always got room. We've got both Lori and Ian are rotating off the board. We have a couple of board spots open for anybody who is interested. Serge will be back, and Rick will be back, and Nick's going to be back, and Margarita will be back, but we have room for 2 or 3 more if anybody is interested. Okay, I see Chris Diaz joined us again too. So if anybody's interested, let us know. Either email Chris or Serge or me. Serge's phone number, by the way, if you want to text him and annoy him. Let me suggest annoying Serge is a very good idea. His phone number is 786-556-0731. Serge is the president of this august group, and he needs to be annoyed regularly.
I get annoyed for a living, so don't worry. None of you can ever annoy me.
He works at T-Mobile.
We're going to try. We're going to try.
All right, November 8th. 2 things. The election will be over.
Yeah.
And
We think the election will be over. The selection might not be.
Right.
well, that's true, but you know, the early voting has been so strong, we may be surprised. I'm reading everything telling me that the templates we've used in the past may be now turned totally upside down. For instance, would be that in Texas, they tried to suppress the voting by only 1 drop box. So what has happened is had 10 days of the biggest voting they've ever had in their history. So from places they're not used to seeing people show up. So I don't know, everything may be turned upside down. Who knows? This will be an election in a lifetime. I think everybody will agree with that. No matter who you're voting for, it's an election in a lifetime. So on November 8th, it's All Souls. So please, everybody, let's remember if you had somebody who passed in the last year that you want remembered, be sure to let me know. If you had somebody who passed in the last year, let me know. We're also going to have a share on the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. It's important to remember that after an election is over. People who lost still have inherent worth and dignity, regardless of which side. We're going to try to build bridges either way. I want to share an embarrassment. I got the wrong link for everybody today. I got links confused. So I'm glad everybody is here. It was my mistake. Nobody else can take the blame for this. It was all on me. I looked at the wrong linkage and sent the link for the class. So we had to resend everything. My big amends. And there's one other thing that, well, we'll go around and say hello to everybody before we begin. I have one other item here. Ed Johnson, of course, is in Florence. Oscar is, nobody knows where Oscar is. Rick and Judy are here in town. Pat is, huh?
Looks like he's in space.
Yeah, that's a good, yes.
Yeah.
Pat is in Forest Hills.
Woo.
Forest Hills, Queens. She has the Bentley and the restored Rolls and an old Jaguar. Yes, Maureen is her sister and is still doing penance. Nanette
Yes.
is
My
up in
Bentley and
Connecticut.
my Mercedes are made out of Lego, though. So
Ray also is in New York. Nick is here in town. Serge is in town. Margarita's in town. Kim is up at the borderline between Wisconsin, Illinois. Joyce is in town. Kay is up in Port Orange. Samantha's in town. Mary Grimmy's over in Tampa. Sarah C. is down in New Orleans. Hal and Linda are in Port Orange. Danny's here in town. Danny, by the way, is a good friend, and you've met him a few times. He's Cecilia's son. Dallas is with us today in town. Eric is a former student, and he's in town. Rory Feeney is up in Fort Worth with his family. So we welcome everybody and are thankful you're here, especially since I sent out the wrong link. On that note, we want to remember the memorial candle today. And I have a special memory and thought. It was posted this week. There are 545 kids who were illegally separated from their parents in 1917, and nobody knew about it.
1917?
I mean, yeah, 1917. No, 2017. 2017, right. 2017. It was done behind everybody's back, and the courts are furious. If a certain person loses the election, it'll even be far worse because somebody made this decision, and they're still trying to find out whose name went on the order. The present administration said, well, the people didn't want their kids back, which is a fascinating thing to say because nobody knows where the parents are. So how would they know whether they wanted the kids back? The only people I know who don't want their kids back are people who have teenagers. Right? I mean, everybody wants their kids back until they're teenagers. And then, of course, you're waiting for your kids to leave after college and they don't, or they're gone for 6 months and then you move back in. So, I mean, the kids are with you. So to say 545 sets of parents don't want their kids back is insane. And nobody knew about this. So we like this in great, great love of families that are still missing their children and children missing their families. And we hold them dear to our hearts. Having said that, our introit this morning is from, and I don't know if any of you are aware of this, there are over 2 million orphans in Uganda. It's 2.2 or 2.4 million orphans. We're going to see this group again. They're called Masaka. Masaka kids from Uganda. Watch these little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, watch them 1 minute for our introit. And Margarita, if you would. Orphans. They've lost their parents through disease, battles. Remember, Idi Amin was in Uganda, and his legacy still, unfortunately, persists. And so there are 2.2 to 2.4 million orphans. And this is a group of orphans that tries to do some dance and singing, see them smiling, and to try to raise awareness for them in Uganda. Our call to worship this morning is led by Serge Cruz. He will read one part and I will lead us in the indented. These are words by Bobby McFerrin.
There is a little song I wrote. I hope you learn it note for note. Like good children,
little children, don't worry, be happy.
Listen to what I say. In your life, expect some trouble.
But when you worry, you make it double.
Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, don't do it, be happy.
And all of us,
Put a
put a smile on your face. Don't bring everybody down like this.
Don't worry, it will soon pass. Whatever it is, don't worry, be happy.
And Serge will lead us in a morning prayer for those who wish, from Patrick of Ireland.
May the way
of the divine pilot us.
May the healing
of the divine preserve us.
May the wisdom
of the divine instruct us.
May
May the strength of the divine protect us.
May
May
the
the
love
love of the
of the
divine
divine
direct
direct
and defend us. Amen.
Amen.
And a little reggae to begin the morning. I have remembered the famous movie Cool Running where the Jamaicans put a bobsled team up. What an incredible movie that was. Sam is going to lead us in some things about happiness. And we're going to read this. She'll read one part and we'll read the indented. And I don't know who actually really wrote this, but it really is a delight. If Sam would lead us, we'd appreciate it.
Happiness is falling in love,
Laughing so hard your face hurts.
a hot shower,
Getting real mail.
Mail.
taking a drive with little traffic,
Hearing your
Hearing
favorite,
your favorite
song on the radio.
lying in bed, listening to the rain outside,
Giggling.
Giggling.
Lots of giggling.
a milkshake on the spur of the moment,
A good
A good
conversation.
conversation.
the beach,
Laughing at
Laughing
yourself.
running through sprinklers,
Laughing
For absolutely no reason at all.
having someone tell you that you're fabulous,
Good, true friends.
friends.
accidentally overhearing someone say something nice about you,
Waking up and realizing you still have a few good hours left to sleep.
playing with a puppy or kitten,
Sweet
Sweet
dreams.
dreams.
hot chocolate,
Watching
the expression on someone's face as they open a much desired present from you.
watching the sunset,
Getting out of bed every
Every
morning
morning
and being grateful for another
for another
beautiful day.
beautiful day.
knowing that somebody misses you,
Getting a
Getting a
hug
hug
from someone you care about deeply.
knowing you've done the right thing no matter what other people think.
You're still in
Still
love
in love
after all these years.
years.
And we're going to ask Nick Osterman to read what has been famously called the Sermon on the Mount, found in the Gospel of Matthew. It's also the Sermon on the Plain in the Gospel of Luke. If you would be so kind, Nick.
Yes. Okay. Jesus saw the crowds and went up a hill, where he sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. Happy are those who know they are spiritually poor. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Happy are those who mourn. God will comfort them. Happy are those who are humble. They will receive what God has promised. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires. God will satisfy them fully. Happy are those who are merciful to others. God will be merciful to them. Happy are the pure in heart. They will see God. Happy are those who work for peace. God will call them his children.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes.
And Aretha. As we continue, we're going to ask Ray to read Shakespeare. We have a great reading from Shakespeare about happiness. And Ray, if you'd be so kind.
I always feel happy. You know why? Because I don't expect anything from anyone. Expectations always hurt. Life is short, so love your life. Be happy and keep smiling. Before you speak, listen. Before you write, think. Before you spend, earn. Before you pray, forgive. Before you hurt, feel. Before you hate, love. Before you quit, try. Before you die, live.
So we've heard from Shakespeare. We've heard a secular list of things that make us happy. We've heard from a Sermon on the Mount. Grant us, we ask, to speak, to hear, and to learn, so that our fears may be banished, our minds may become enlightened, our faith be increased, and our steps directed towards you. In 1920, an experiment took place at Johns Hopkins that would probably be illegal today and probably almost wind up people in jail. Evidently, a man by the name of James Watson and his assistant Rosalie Rayner paid $1 for the use of a baby boy who was 9 months old, and they named him Albert so they could protect his name. And they put him in a cage and did all kinds of experiments to find out how they can manipulate what he likes. This did not get Mr. Watson, Dr. Watson, in trouble. The fact that he had an affair with his assistant is what got him in trouble. And so he ultimately had to leave Johns Hopkins. But guess what? He wound up working in a nascent industry. Are you ready for this? Advertising. Oh, yes. And he learned from what you can manipulate with a 9-month-old, you can manipulate adults. And so what does he find in advertising? With behavior manipulation, there are two targets for human beings: human happiness and peak expectations. There is a movie called Mad Men, and Dan Draper said, "What is happiness?" Listen to this quote. "It is the moment before you need more happiness." Yes, let me read that to you again. What is happiness? It's the moment before you need more happiness. And how do you find out what is happiness? You'd be amazed at how much you and I are manipulated in ways we don't even realize subliminally on advertising and everything else. Think of everything that's being sold. The idea is to make you happy, to make you comfortable, to make you good. Am I right? To make you feel good in all myriad kinds of ways. And so you think about happiness. I was thinking lately, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. I am sick of politics. I'm sick of listening to stuff that I know absolutely true. By the way, and I don't mean to get into a rant here, let me tell you something. The end of the pandemic is not around the corner. Let me make that very clear. Let me make that very clear. If you want to go around and get sick and almost die or have residuals after the virus, don't wear a mask. Go into a bar, get drunk, and slap hand and hold everybody as if it's just fine. Thank you very much. The reality is, I'm tired of listening to all this stuff, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. And my brain is saying, so what? And I'm thinking it's a time right now when everybody I know is tense. My students are tense. My friends are tense. The congregants are tense. It's not a pleasant time. Also, as we're talking about this, I got to thinking, sadness, sorrow, disappointment, and the F word. Not the F word you're thinking. The F word is really the F word, failure. Nobody wants to talk about sadness, sorrow, disappointment, or failure. Nobody wants to hear it. Do you ever think about that? We want to hear, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing well, thank you. Who wants to actually hear, hey, you know, I'm glad you asked. And then they tell you what's really going on. Who really wants to listen to that? You and I have been primed. No. You do not share. You do not share your inner feelings about your sorrow, your disappointments in life. You don't share how badly you feel. No, you don't. You don't do that. The only people, by the way, that I ever see that are fairly good at this are women who have a couple of good friends. And the reason it seems to work with women, and maybe I've got this wrong, is you get woman X who just breaks up and she will annoy her 2 girlfriends for the next 9 months about this. But the reason they're good about this is because they don't want her turn. The other put it up, it was the third one's turn. And so they have an ongoing self-help group of supporting each other. Men are terrible at this. And nobody likes to talk about sorrow, disappointment, and unhappiness. Nobody likes to say, I'm lonely. Loneliness is a primary feeling that people have all the time, or most of the time, and nobody likes to talk about it. It's taboo. These things are not to be mentioned and banished. The thing is, we have to get rid of sadness and sorrow and disappointment. We want those peak experiences. We want to be happy. I mean, look at all the stuff people get saddled with. I remember when timeshares were very, very big. I don't hear much about them anymore. I'm sure they're out there. But I remember when timeshares were first started, it was the whole thing to make you happy, to get away from where you are, to go, go, go. Experience life again. Know what it's like to be happy. I mean, when you look at everything we've done to bury sadness, sorrow, and disappointment, I mean, how is that working for you? Being in denial. How is that really working when it hurts and you can't really tell anybody? And how is that working when you're really disappointed and you don't want to even admit it to yourself? I mean, it's funny what we go through to denial and avoidance. I noticed that I specifically forgot to mention what an important day it is today. I'm in denial and avoidance because it's my ordination anniversary at the church where Ed grew up in Saugus. Yes, on this date, I was ordained, and I don't like to mention it because of the number of years that's involved. And I remember seeing people, in fact, I was on this panel for people who had been ordained 50 years. And I obviously fit in one sense, but in another sense, I didn't at all. And, saying you've been ordained for half a century is not cool. I've been in denial about this. It's kind of like, do you need help to get to the chair? I mean, this is 50, that's a half a century. So, we're all of us are in different aspects of denial. We don't like about disappointment. We don't like to talk about time. We like to avoid as much as possible that causes us discomfort. And I ask myself, how is this working for us? Where is that quote I have? Some of you may have heard of Yuval Harari, the famous Israeli writer. He talks about our ability to deny not feeling happy, our ability to deny sorrow and disappointment. And he says the following: we moderns have an arsenal of tranquilizers and painkillers at our disposal. But our expectations of ease and pleasure and our intolerance of inconvenience, listen to that phrase, I love that, our intolerance of inconvenience and discomfort have increased to such an extent that we may well suffer from pain more than our ancestors ever did. Our intolerance of inconvenience and discomfort. I'm thinking about that in terms of even in religion. One of the things that was interesting, they found out that churches that have long-term pastorates do much better at dealing with suffering and dealing with discomfort because they have a system of built-in trust and knowledge. Congregations and mosques and synagogues that get rid of their clergy every 3 to 4 years are showing that they have a terrible discomfort with inconvenience and a terrible discomfort with things that change, because if you have a long-term pastorate, you're always going through changes. You're always going through new things because ideas crop up. We have new board members, new this, new that. Things are always happening all the time. Certainly All Souls is now not what it was 5 years ago, and 5 years ago it wasn't what it was 10 years ago. So we don't like discomfort, and in the process of not liking discomfort, we make ourselves, according to Rory, more discomfortable and more uncomfortable and more inconvenienced. There's a person I never heard of. His name is Joseph Fargus. He's from the University of New South Wales. He says, if you go back into antiquity, you're going to find out there is an incredible emphasis placed upon, and I love this, the importance of, this is so counterintuitive to us right now in 2021, the importance of sadness, the importance of sorrow as being natural companions in your daily living. Now, none of us like to hear that. What do you mean? Sorrow and sadness are important companions. That doesn't sound good to us in the 21st century. He argues if you really study human beings, that sorrow and sadness and disappointment as part of your daily and part of your life, in fact, makes you more aware of what's going on around you. It makes you less gullible. Now stop that for a minute. Makes you more aware. If everything is always happy, are you really aware what life is really like? It makes you less gullible. If you think everybody is trustworthy, you've never had failures and bad bumps, you're going to be really gullible and get hurt worse. He says it makes you more persistent. It makes you more persistent. I know just about everybody here. Now, I don't know Eric well, and I don't know, where did he go? I don't know Chris well, but I do know the rest of you well. And everybody here has had stuff happen to them, and you persisted. You persisted. You didn't sweep it under the carpet. You didn't hide things away. You persisted in mounting whatever issues there were to carry on so you could look forward. One of the things that everybody here has done, they've had trouble physically, emotionally, and mentally. Everybody I know, and they rather than get anchored in the past, you stay grounded in the present and you look to the future, because you know by being persistent, you can move out of this into something new. And he argues you work harder. People who've had sorrow and sadness know that you've got to work through it, because when you come on the other side, you'll be a better person. You know, there's that old thing that's very, very true. I know it sounds ancient. If you have a very painful boil, it's going to stay painful and get worse if you do nothing about it. You go to the doctors. Yes, you get it lanced and it's annoying, but 3 weeks later, you're healed and you're off and running again. You have to get through stuff to get healthy again. And just about all of you know that. You've been there. You've seen that. You've experienced that. I want to look at some things that we talk about. Emotions. He also argues that there are ways to sharpen emotions. And the way you sharpen emotions is not by pushing things away, but by grasping and understanding and not fleeing from, but taking into you things that happen naturally. In short, sadness, disappointment, and not always being happy is part of life. Now, let me explain from what I mean. If you take a look at antiquity, you're going to find some very fascinating aspects of how to live and live healthily. Have you ever heard of Taoism? Taoism is probably one of the great aspects of mental health that seems to have escaped all of us. If it wasn't for the fact that I had to teach a world religion class, it would have escaped me too. About 2,600 years ago in north central China, there were some shamans, and by working with people with natural herbs and trying to find out how you can cope with life, they began to notice that, number one, you needed to let go of things that block you. If you let go of things that block you, there is natural energy called chi that everybody can experience. Did I ever tell you about Harold Bontrager? Harold Bontrager is sitting at a board meeting, and I'm in Chicago, and there are these like 20-some people on the board, and Harold Bontrager, if you looked at him, you would love it. Big, baggy jeans, a flannel shirt. He looks like, I don't know what. He was one of the most successful traders in the Chicago Mercantile Association. But to look at him, you think I don't know what you think. He says in the middle of this board meeting, he says, I'm worried about Kenneth. And I'm going, here I am in a three-piece suit, a collar. I've got this big agenda, 22 people. And he says, I'm worried about Kenneth and rocking chair time. In my mind, I'm going, rocking chair time? What? I'm furious, but I don't say a word. He says, my grandfather. Now, I'm from the Northeast. You go, you do. I don't want to hear about rocking chairs. I don't want to hear about grandfathers. So he says, my grandfather, every afternoon at 4 o'clock, would go out and sit on the front porch and rock, and I'm dying. In my head, I'm dying. What does this have to do with the agenda? What does this have to do with a board meeting? You see, we go out every afternoon, turn everything off, regardless of the weather, and sit and rock for 30 minutes. He would sit and rock, and afterwards he said he felt energized and felt at peace and one with the world. He was a Taoist and didn't know it. His grandfather was a farmer, high school education, but somehow he picked up naturally. You shut it off. You go out every afternoon, you rock, you take it easy, and you sense energy. Your professor, your minister who thought he knew it all, paid no attention to this, and 3 months later got sick and had the virus that went into his heart because I had done too much. The doctor said, the life you live is impossible. It's all stress. You haven't learned how to let go. Here's Bontrager's father, a farmer with a high school education who got it years ago. The Taoists also argue, and I think you're going to love this, that the Germans got it wrong. You may have heard of Hegel. Hegel had this great philosophy. You have this, and you have this, and this are intention. You will have the thesis. In the this versus this, you will have the thesis, and you will like the thesis. Taoists say, that's really not very healthy. In fact, things are not at war with each other. Things are not opposing each other. They're all part of the same. Things ebb and flow. They're not opposites tearing you apart, but they ebb and flow. When I first heard this, I was so mad. Why didn't somebody tell me this? My whole life had seemed like one thing opposing the other, when in fact, things ebb and flow. I love light, but I wouldn't appreciate light without darkness. I appreciate energy because I remember what it was like not having any. I appreciate good times because I remember bad times. And during bad times, I know that this too will pass. That's a very old phrase, this too shall pass. Taoists see things as ebb and flow. To have happiness, you have to have sadness. You have to have disappointment. That is part. How are you going to enjoy the good times if you don't have anything to compare them with? Am I making sense to anybody?
Oh, yeah.
And the Taoists did this, are you ready for this, 2,600 years ago. Then we come across Epicurus. Writing in Greece 2,300 years ago, he said, you want to know what happiness is? Happiness is peace and freedom from fear. He's not talking about, I'm happy. It's peace and freedom from fear. It is the absence of pain. That's what causes happiness. And then there's our famous Rumi. I discovered this by accident. Now, Nanette told me about Rumi years ago. I discovered this by accident. Listen to the brilliance of this. Writing in the 1200s. The brilliance of this is so incredible. Sorrow prepares you for joy. The first time I read that sentence, I really am an idiot at times. I thought, what is he writing about? Listen to the beauty of this poem. Sorrow prepares you for joy, so that new joy can find space to enter. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart, so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up rotten roots, so new roots new roots hidden beneath have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take place. 1200s. He understood that you needed one for the other. Sorrow prepares you for joy. I thought that was brilliant. There are people who spend thousands of dollars going to psychiatrists. Rumi, free, right here, from 1200. Sorrow prepares you, free. My heavens, my soul, free. Taoists, ebb and flow, let it go, free. Happiness. From Sam reading this morning. Join with me, happiness. Laughing so hard your face hurts. Did that cost anything, anybody? Do we have to pay anybody for that? Take a drive with a little traffic. In Miami, you know, I remember when the COVID first hit and I had to go out, there was no traffic and I thought I was on the moon. Hearing your favorite song on the radio. Do you have favorite songs? Doesn't it bring a smile? Have you ever remember something that long, long ago and it triggers memories? And that's good. Lying in bed, listening to the rain outside. I happen to like rain, I know. Giggling, lots of giggling. How can you not like lots of giggling? How can you not like lots of giggling? A milkshake on the spur of the moment, a good conversation. Laughing absolutely for no reason at all. Danny was helping me with a car. My Jeep, you know, I have this thing about my Jeep. I know, it's insane. I had done nothing to it during COVID. So since mid-March, no wax, no wax. Now, Rory Feeney, who's here, will tell you, he used to come over to my house. He said to me, do you really have 4 coats of wax on that car? Seriously, there's something wrong with you. I had done nothing. So Danny comes over to help me and he says to me, Ken, you have moss on your car. Moss on my Jeep. He had a great laugh. He just let loose. I thought it was the funniest thing ever that on my Jeep I had moss. Laughed himself silly. Obviously, I did not until I finally couldn't help myself and looked at it. I said, my gosh, there is moss. For no reason at all. Stupid things. Good and true friends. Playing with puppies, or those of you like kittens. Sweet dreams. Chocolate. Watching the sunrise. You're still in love after all these years. What a wonderful, these are all free. And they're all dependent on the ebbs and flows. You know, you like listening to songs because there are times when you can't listen to songs. You know, you laugh because sometimes you can't laugh. You giggle because sometimes you can't giggle. You have good and true friends because everybody here has seen what it's like to have false friends. Am I right? Everybody knows what it's like to have false friends. Oh, they're your friends when they need something. But other than that, they're not. So, you know, to have real true friends is worth it. To watch the sunrise or to see the stars at night, it costs nothing. And then, you know, it's interesting how Jesus, I will just share with you what we're doing in class. We're looking at the life of Jesus without dogma or doctrine. And I see Jesus in line, a whole line of teachers that have affirmed the same thing and others who come after. The first thing he said is, happy are those who are spiritually poor. That does not translate in modern English the way it's meant in Aramaic. What he meant was, are happy are those who are humble. Happy are those who are not puffed up. Happy are those who are not arrogant. Remember the old thing, pride goes before the fall. Happy are those who mourn, because in mourning, you're able to get out what you need to get out. When you mourn, you're able to let go. And here's the thing. Think about this. My mother's mate of 70 years, my stepfather died 3 months ago. And my mother was crying the other day. She's in a nursing home. And she said, I miss him and I'm embarrassed by that. And I said, I want you to think about this, Mom. I said, don't you think it's a gift? And she said, what do you mean it's a gift? I said, wouldn't it be really bizarre if after 70 years together, you didn't miss him? Isn't it a gift that you can still feel his presence? You can still remember all the things you did. Isn't that a gift? It's in mourning that you're able to relive things that made you alive and good and still give you strength day by day. Mourning also gets you with others to share a Thanksgiving. How many times do we say we're thankful for somebody's life? And so mourning enables us not only to share our grief with every other and share our humanity, but it also enables to share thanksgiving. Happy are those who are humble. It's, I think everybody here who's been arrogant at one time or another and fallen on your face knows that there's something to be said for humility. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do good. Happy are those who are merciful to others. Happy are those who seek peace. Notice that all of these things are not about peak experiences. They're not about having a lot of money. They're not a lot about of having all kinds of foreign substances in you to what's the word I want to say, to artificially make you happy. But all of these are natural. Letting go, feeling natural energy, realizing that things ebb and flow. Your life is not torn apart, they ebb and flow. Isn't it nice to think of pain? The absence of pain is in fact a way of talking about happiness. What about Rumi? Sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps everything out of your house, so new joy can find space to enter. You need both. And laughing so hard your face hurts. Why? Because you know when it's not laughing what it's like. You laugh because you know what it's like to be sad. You giggle because you remember when you weren't giggling and things hurt. So I would argue today, this whole emphasis on happiness hasn't really worked for us. It's artificial. It's taking away from that which enables us to really, really be. We need sadness. We need times to mourn. We need times of sorrow, and we need times of failure. Because those kinds of things build us. They give us character. They give us persistence. They make us more aware of what's around us. And when we don't have sadness, we don't have pain, we don't have disappointment, we don't have failure, oh, we can appreciate it that much more because we know both. So in this time of tension, let us remember to enjoy the good. We need this as well. A thought, an idea, literally a share for the day. Amen.
Amen.
And Oscar, if you would give us some transition music. Before we begin our thoughts and prayers today, I want to remind you to especially remember all of those orphans in Uganda. I want you to remember the 500 plus children who still are separated from their parents. And I want to share one of our own families whose son is going through an incredible time. Many of you have known Timmy over the years, and he's had a very, very rough time. We want to offer our prayers and support to the family and to Timmy and hold them deeply within our arms and our prayers. For the poor and the unfortunate, for the sick and the suffering, for the tempted and bereaved, for the forgotten and lonely, let us offer a prayer or a thought. For the poor and the unfortunate, for the sick and the suffering, for the tempted and bereaved, for the forgotten and the lonely. Let us indeed offer a prayer or a thought this day and every day. May it be so. Amen. Let me remind everybody, if you have somebody special that has passed in the last year, I'm thinking of your Aunt Maureen, and for the others who've passed, be sure to send me their names. And on our next service for All Souls, we will remember them with great joy and love. You know, I never talk about money. That's a phobia I have. But Karen Paul, being a good business professor, said, it's Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up. She said, you do have a budget. And even though we have been doing incredible things on half the budget we needed before because we're not renting anymore, we still have bills to pay. So if everybody could remember us, if you could be so kind in your thoughts and in your gifts this Christmas, we would deeply appreciate it. Even the littlest gift, the littlest amount of money, all counts. So if you can, just remember us. In the weekly, you get the post office box. And if you're having trouble with PayPal, Serge will be glad to help you work the PayPal. All right. We have more transition music as we prepare for our meal. From Winnie the Pooh of all things, Promise Me You'll Remember.
Promise me you'll
Me,
remember.
you'll remember.
You are braver than you believe.
You are brave,
braver than you believe.
Stronger than you seem.
Stronger than you seem.
And smarter than you think.
and smarter than you
Smarter than
think.
you think.
And again, God didn't promise
God didn't promise
Didn't promise
days without pain,
days without
days
pain,
without pain,
laughter without sorrows,
Laughter without sorrows.
sun without rain.
sun without rain.
But the divine did promise
But the divine did promise
strength for the day,
strength for the day,
comfort for the tears,
comfort for the tears,
and light for the way.
and light for the way.
I was thinking, if the Hindus were right to suggest that divine reality is in everything, and what we see around us are multiple facets of divine reality, then if you want to say from a theological point of view, is suffering really divine? If joy is, then so is suffering. Divine reality manifests itself in so many ways that work together that can make us
Why are you joying, little girl?
Now, before we leave, the famous black chip. Now, Eric, you're visiting with us, so you probably don't know what the black chip is. I'll be glad to explain it. The black chip we did not borrow, we stole. We stole outright from NA and AA. And for those of you who are not sure what NA is, it's Narcotics Anonymous. At the end of every meeting, if you have something that's going to cause you resentment, something that's going to cause you grievance, something that's going to cause you anger, you need to pick up a black chip because this is going to hurt you. And the idea is the black chip is to remind you, you have an anger or resentments or grievance that has to be healthily resolved. Then when you next come to the meeting, the first thing is, anybody have a black chip to return? How and when exactly we started this, I'm not sure, but we've been doing it for years. We have gone through boxes of these things. Does anybody have a black chip to return? Anybody have a black chip to hold up? Ah, 1, 2. Does anybody need to pick up a black chip today? Does anybody need to pick up a black chip? 1, anybody else? 2, 3. Ed, did I ever send you black chips? I will send you black chips. Let me make a note of that. You're the one I forgot. I wrote it down and lost it. Let me do that now. It's on the way. The black chip is simply a reminder, let us not let grievance or anger or resentment get in our path of growth and spirituality. A final prayer. May the blessings of God be upon us in this hour and in the days to come, that we may seek the truth more devotedly, that we may think more independently, that we may reflect more searchingly, that we may know ourselves more completely, we may forgive more quickly, we may pray more thoughtfully, we may act more courageously, we may live more nobly. And before our final blessing, a piece of music you might remember. I am delighted that we are able to listen to so many different types of music. And maybe some of you do what I do. Rather, when I think of thee, thinking of individual, I think of divine reality of all of us, everything around us. And so I listen to the music and I consider the Brooklyn Tabernacle a part of divine reality, us another part of divine reality. And maybe before we go, something that might be helpful. Think of divine reality as that great kaleidoscope. Do you remember a kaleidoscope when you were growing up? And you saw all the different colors and all the different vibrancies. Maybe that is a way to help as we put to some sense of what is around us. And now our final blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. And when we meet again, may the divine in me greet and embrace the divine in you. Amen. Now, before we go, let's say stay over here so we can go around and say hello to everybody very quickly again. Again, Ed Johnson is in Florence, South Carolina, who went to the very church I was ordained in and was there at that time with his sisters and mother, the whole family. Oscar, you know, is a musician and has been in film lately, and he's here in town. Pat is in Forest Hills, New York. Her sister Maureen is here in town. Margarita is the one who helps make all this go, and she's going to be training Serge how to do some of this. Serge didn't know that, but he is. Kim is way up in the Wisconsin, Illinois border. Rick and Judy are here with us today. Nanette is from Connecticut. Sarah is Nick Osterman's mom from New Orleans. Ray is up in New York.
Hello.
Washington Heights.
Correct.
Yes. Nick is here. Nick, is that weed?
Oh,
Is he showing me weed?
no, that's an almond bush.
Oh, I thought that is something else. I thought
No.
Nick is showing me weed. Rory
No, it's
Feeney and his family up in Fort Worth. We got Gail and Thomas. Are you in Port Orange now? Or are you up in North Carolina?
What are you doing?
Yes, Port
You're,
Orange.
you're in Port Orange, okay? Serge is here. Eric is here. Mary Grimmy is over in Tampa. She used to be in Port Orange. Danny's here. His mom, Cecilia. Sam is here with her boyfriend and here. Kay is up in Port Orange, and Eric is here too. And then we had Chris who was here as well. So we thank all of you for being here, especially since I sent the wrong link. We hope you are all well. We hope all is going well for you. I will get the link right next time, or bad things will happen to me. Be safe, be well, vote. I'm not going to say early and often. I did not say that. Vote. Be sure you check your vote went in. And thank you all so much for being with us here today. And go wax your Jeep.
Thank you, Ken.
Peace to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
What a
Bye.
great share.
Everyone, great to see everybody.
Great to see
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, Rick. Bye, Judy.
Until next